Hello and welcome to Cena Bounds Live, and I am joined with the amazing Kay Downie, the soul mechanic. I love that. Absolutely love it. You might have seen one or two of the previous shows, but today we're going to talk about something that I know absolutely nothing about. So you use some non-intrusive therapy, Kay, that is called Kinetic Shift. Right. Do you know what that is? If you don't, stay tuned. It's over to you, Kate. Tell me, what is it? I've not heard of that before.
Kinetic Shift. Carl Smith will probably not like the way that I'm going to explain it because it's his therapy and his baby. But Carl had PTSD, and Carl found that doing different types of therapies like NLP, shamanism, color therapy, spiritual healing, all these different therapies, a bit of this and a bit of that, helped him. But he had to put them all in a melting pot to get the complete help. And he called that therapy that he came up with Kinetic Shift. So basically all it means is moving something, shifting an energy. We are all energy. Everything is energy. Your energy, the chairs we're sitting in are energy. The camera that's recording us is energy. Everything is energy. So we come to a point in our lives that we feel that we're pushing water uphill, if you like. We can't seem to get past a block. There's something stopping us. I'll use for an example a lady that I actually sat next to on an airplane coming home from a holiday. And she started talking to me and was telling me how anxious her husband was and that he'd suffered with anxiety for as long as she could remember. And I took the opportunity to say, I can help him. Gave him my business card. I thought, I won't hear any more of this. But he did. He did contact me and he did come for a therapy. Now, the therapy takes an hour. This gentleman only stayed with me for 15 minutes, went away. And when I contacted him to see how he felt a couple of days later, he said, well, I felt fine on the day, but gradually the anxiety is coming back. My answer was, well, you didn't come for the full hour. Come back, let's finish the hour. He came back, and at the end of the session, he said, I feel so different. I feel so different now to what I did in that quarter of an hour because something's moved. He said, I can feel that something's moved. And he gave me a review telling me that he was better. Another gentleman came to me by his dad because he had said that he didn't want to be here anymore. And his dad reached out to me to see if I could help. And I tried. He came to talk to me on Zoom and didn't turn his camera on. And it was very weird talking to a black screen. But at that time, I was doing face-to-face readings, and he lived not very far from my office. And he came in to have a kinetic shift session with me. That's a mouthful. And I only did a very quick one again because I knew he didn't want to be on the planet, let alone in the office with me. So I did a very quick session with him and made an appointment for him to come back the following week, which he did. Now, the man that came in looked like a tramp the first session. The man that came in on the second session, if I hadn't had his name in my diary, I wouldn't have recognized because he was about 6 foot tall with dark black hair, dark black beard, and very confident.
Wow.
And I said to him, wow, I'm surprised you've kept this appointment looking at you. He said, I know there's still something there, Kay. And I know it's on my shoulder. So I said, okay, we'll work on your shoulder. And as I put my hand just over his shoulder, not actually touching it, I could feel the heat of something coming out of his body. So we did another quick session, or we completed the whole hour that he had put me booked in for the first time. And I've never seen him since. I know he's alive because I've seen different things about him.
It's interesting, isn't
fantastic.
It? When you just need that shift. It's very powerful.
It is very powerful, and it's a case of, we hear about it in the Bible when we're kids. About, you could hear it. There's a phrase, isn't there, in there that somebody is told, heal thyself, and we can. we can heal ourselves, because I didn't heal either of those gentlemen. They healed themselves because they came to me with an open mind and were willing to follow my instructions.
So what would you say, I'm going to sort of be a bit different here. What would you say about somebody who comes to you as very skeptical? They might have had a recommendation. You might be the last person that they actually think, well, I've tried everything else, so I'm just going to give it a go. But they're very kind of skeptical, not really sure. What would your suggestion be to somebody like that?
My suggestion to them would be, just come and be yourself. Just be open-minded. Just be open-minded, because it doesn't matter who you are, even if you don't think it's going to work and you close down slightly, it can still work, providing that you want it to. It's that wanting. It's all about intention. You know, that's what everything is about, really, is intention. I'll touch on it slightly because it's not anything to do with Kinetic Shift, but the secret is all about intention, about getting that money in. But I read on Facebook today, cows don't give you milk. We have to work for it. So it's the same with healing yourself. You have to work for it. So if they come to me and are wondering if it's going to work, then just trust the process. Have the faith that it will, and be surprised when it does.
That sounds lovely, doesn't it, for those people who are watching? It's because I think sometimes it's so hard to get that shift on your own.
It is.
And you can work on so many different things. I know I found it really hard when we came out of lockdown, having built very much an online business. And I feel that a lot of business owners at the moment have had to shift and evolve. And as a business owner, you have to evolve all the time. But that can be really hard when you've set the presence.
Especially when, you know, if you're self-employed and you haven't got anybody else to turn to. I think, you know, you need somebody on your side, which is where Bounds comes into its own, as well as other organisations as well. But it's you. You have to be prepared to help yourself. We can all go along with, as I've said in previous shows that we've been on together, Charlotte, I could have gone on being depressed to the day I die. But I didn't. Something switched in me and I didn't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it was that intention that gave me the momentum to go on and become the soul mechanic.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm here to help anybody. They don't even have to book a session. Just come and have that virtual coffee and talk about how the process works in more depth than we are today. Yeah. Because it's different for different people. So, you know, it does work. It's not a magic wand. It's, you know, I call my toolbox my spiritual spanners, but there's no spanners involved. It's pure, I'm going to use the word imagination.
Yeah. I like spiritual spanners. I think we should all have a toolbox of spiritual spanners. We have talked about virtual coffee before, but again, just briefly, where could people book on if they want to, listening in and they really want some advice on how they can work with you?
It's on my website, which is www.kaydownie.co.uk. You can have a virtual coffee. You can, if you're confident that the session is going to work, you can actually book a session. You can book any of my services on that website.
Yeah, and all services are also online. So wherever you are in the world, if you're listening in and you want to have a chat with Kay, which I really, really strongly advise you to do, because I promise you will come away with some spiritual spanners, not actual spanners for those out there, but you will have a little toolbox to get back to when you need it. So on that note, we're going to leave it here. I'm going to say thank you so much for coming in. I really, really appreciate it. I feel calm just being in the studio with Kay. So imagine what you can feel like. And we wish you a really lovely day.